Hey, this is Sri Vishwanath here, and welcome to episode number 24 of the Ask Sri Vishwanath Vedanta show. And today's video, we are going to speak about how to increase your Shraddha part 5. And this is going to be the last for the Shraddha. And if you've not watched, the earlier parts, just go and watch that. You can also go to www.magicofgod.com to get free lessons on increasing Shraddha, and you'll save a couple of decades. Now, I want to give you a very powerful tip in this episode on Shraddha. So, share with you a beautiful story. It's a very simple story. There were three people who were meditating in the forest, praying in the forest, and for liberation, moksha. Moksha means liberation. Moksha means you're not born again. So if you're not born again, that's called moksha, means the jiva merges with the Brahman. That's the technical part. So anything which one does in spirituality is to attain moksha. That if you don't, we come back again, and then this whole scenario starts. So there were these three people who were praying, and they did all this right things, rituals. They left everything, all that stuff. And they were doing their best. So Narad, the sage, he was going to Vishnu, and he was these three spiritual seekers saw that, and they said, "Why don't you ask Vishnu when we are going to get moksha?" So Narad went to Vishnu, and when he was coming back, all these three were excited. So the first one asked, "When am I going to get it?" And Narad said, "Vishnu told me you're going to get it after 3 lifetimes." And he became very dejected. He just stopped doing everything. It was fully, his face sank, and he was like totally dejected. Then the second guy asked him, "Oh, what about me?" And Narad said, "You're going to get up to 5 lifetimes." And he also became totally dejected. He stopped doing everything what he was doing, and he was like, "Oh, this is not fair enough." Now the third guy, after some time, he met the third guy, and the third guy was excited. Said, "What did Vishnu say?" And Narad said, "Look at all the leaves in the tree. You count all the leaves. After that many births, you will get moksha." This third guy started dancing. He was so happy. "Oh, I'm going to finally get it after uh, all these lifetimes." And the reason he danced was because he processed it right. What Vishnu actually wanted to say was, look, all the leaves in the tree, that many lives you have led, in fact, more. So if you realize that, you will not fool around in this life and think, okay, I do this little bit of prayer, or I do 20 years of prayer. You do 20, 30, 100,000 years of prayer. You have to first realize we have not been able to achieve moksha, liberation, despite millions and millions of lifetimes. Then what the hell makes you feel you're going to get it because you're praying a little bit, meditating a little bit, because, oh, you're doing this course, that course and all? Because Shraddha is lacking. We don't even realize once we could not do it because there is something else. That's what Vishnu gave. There is something else beyond the horizon which you can't see, that unless you get the grace. This feeling like, oh, I have done 20 years of prayer. Oh, I'm praying every day. I'm meditating. I have done that. I have done this thing. You do whatever you want. But it's called upadhi. Upadhi is like, even if one upadhi remains, it's called like the obstacle, the field. It's called field and field. No, it's called field. You're not going to get it. So the third guy started dancing because he realized what Vishnu actually said. And because of that, he got realization in that lifetime. He increased, his devotion. He increased his, Shraddha towards Vishnu. And he realized that only with his help. So Krishna says, in the end, whoso departs, giving up the body and remembering me, reaches me. The last thought which we have, the last conscious thought, many people die unconscious. The last conscious thought which you have is a reward for all the life. So every damn thing which you're doing from birth to end is only for the last conscious thought, says Shankaracharya. That is the amount of Shraddha you have to. So one will say, oh, what is the guarantee? Yeah, that's why you don't get it. You have to stake your entire life for that one damn conscious thought in the end, because that is a reward which Krishna, which Vishnu, whatever God you follow gives you. And the moment you get that visualization of the Krishna or Ishvara, whatever God, you attain liberation, because that's the fruit. And so the whole of life, whatever you do, is only practice. So if you live for 70 years, the whole of 70 years is just for that one conscious, whatever. But what that one conscious thought in that, because that is the what is called a Shraddha. And that is what is required, as we as human beings can only do that. So I'll share with you a story, another story of Jada Bharat. It's a very powerful story because it's very important to realize that most people are just playing around. If you realize the import, it's not easy, it's not hard, but you'll get the clarity. And you'll realize you don't need all these mind powers, all that light to come, some damn experience. You don't need any damn experience. Realization means you don't need any experience. You got to destroy the false visualization. That's the clear. You got to listen to what Krishna said, what dharma is. It's a very clear thing, not all these parts. So this is the story of Jada Bharat. Jada Bharat was a very popular king. And the whole India, actually, Bharat was named after him. He was a very good king and all that stuff. And at the age of whatever, 60, he renounced and he left his wife's kingdom and all that and went to the forest because he wanted to live the rest of his life in the following, in the name of God. So the moment he landed there, because he was a king, it takes time, right? All these things and, all the luxuries and also he's getting used to, and a little bit praying, a little bit meditating and just warming up. And during that time, he heard a roar of a lion. And so he got up and came to see what it was. And there was this female deer who was running away, frightened from the roar of the lion. And she, out of fear, jumped into the river. And as she jumped into the river, she died. But a baby deer, she was pregnant, so a baby deer was born. So that female deer died. And Jada Bharat saw all these things and he took pity, compassion. What most people say, compassion. He got compassion on the deer. And he brought it and he said, I'm going to take care of it. Now, Shankaracharya says here one thing. If I was supervising, I would have beaten that Jada Bharat because he did not have a teacher. He did not have someone to guide him. He left everything, the palace, his family, everything. He did everything right. And he forgot why he had come here for. He could have taken the deer and give it to someone else. But that damn compassion, which was not right at that moment. It may be right at some other moment, it got him into trouble. It's called upadhi. This is why people don't get it. And then what happened was, he would pray, and then every time he would pray, he would get, is the deer somewhere lost? Because he started taking care of the deer as if it was his child. He left his own children. Look here, he got tired. And he was praying, and all these thoughts would come, is the deer got caught by the lion, this, that. And every day his prayer would be disturbed because he developed tremendous attachment. And so thinking, one day of the deer, he died, and the last verse came true. In the end, whoso departs king of the body, and remembering me reaches me, Krishna. Remembering whatever being one gives up the body, that. So the opposite, whatever is our last conscious thought, that becomes what is called as Bhavrajya. It is formed in the cloud, that image. And then he became a deer. He became a deer in his life because of that one silly thing of showing compassion to the deer where it was not needed, because he forgot that he had left his palace, his wife, and all his children, and what he had come there for. So that is why you may do all the 100 million. He did everything right, which most people would not do in many lifetimes. But he did not get liberation in that. He was born as a deer, and because of his good karma in that lifetime of deer, he remembered it. And the next lifetime, it's a beautiful story. He did not talk for the first 20 years, and and he just kept silent because he did not want to he did not want people to believe that he was intelligent, because then people say, okay, go to school, go to college, earn money, marry, have children, all that stuff. So he remained like that. It's a beautiful story. So in that lifetime he got, but he had to wait for 2 lifetimes after doing everything right because of this one city. So this idea of liberation is, Shraddha is terribly lacking in people. Most people don't get it. They say, oh, what do you mean by my Shraddha? It's like, so Ramakrishna says, someone may have no attachments, so someone may be, have no family, nothing, but they may keep a dog or a cat or something like that. It is human behavior that we somehow find a way to get caught up in this world. That's the way the mind travels, and we don't even feel it. Ramakrishna says if a person is drunkard, he doesn't even feel that he is drunk. You see, we do not realize what is a upadhi, what is liberation, what are we to do, because we are just looking at all comforts of the body and mind, which is fine. We all got to live here, but liberation is not something you get from reading some best books or praying for 20, 30 years and all. You got to listen to the best. Shankaracharya, Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, and you have to learn history a little bit. Why? So when you realize that, you'll know that you don't have to do many things right. You have to listen to the words of the great ones, Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, Ramana Maharshi, Adi Shankaracharya, Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, and listen again and again and again, and realize you don't need any mind powers. You need love for God, worship. Right? So you can go to www.magicofgod.com to save 3 decades and to make sure you attain liberation, moksha. Thank you, and God bless.